Okay, I wanted to just break these videos up today because we did one part of our Q&A today about the thoracic spine and shoulders, so that's a separate recording. This one is a question that we had about the hips and specifically a groin strain. So this particular person is a runner, and I also know this person to work really hard, spend a lot of time on her computer. Very active person, and perhaps active in a cycling and a running kind of a linear kind of fashion. So we want to talk about how can we get a little bit more. Well, first of all, when we have a groin strain, what are the first things that we want to do to nurture that? And of course, it depends on the severity, but we'll talk kind of in generalizations here. I think even more importantly, what I get excited about too is what can we do in our training, in our stretching, in our strengthening to prevent that groin strain from happening. Hopefully prevent it in the first place. And even if it is going to happen, if we're going to get a muscle sprain, preparing ourselves so that it'll hopefully be not very bad and get better quickly. So these are all things that are very important to us. So I'm going to go ahead and try a little screen share here. So we're zoomed in here on the groin. Oh, that all important groin. I love this guy. We can move him all around. So what I want to do is just look at quickly the anatomy, okay, of some of the muscles that are likely involved if we have an inner thigh or groin strain. So we have on the outer layer of things, there's the gracilis. We might even be talking about the sartorius. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove some of the layers of these muscles so we can start to see some of the deeper muscles that are most likely involved. So you can see I'm just taking this layer by layer off of here. So the gracilis is one you can actually reach down and pretty easily feel that one on the inner thigh. Then we've got the adductor longus, we've got the pectineus, and then I'm going to go ahead and remove another layer so that we can actually see the adductor longus. So inner thigh muscles attached to this rim of our pelvis, this right near the pubic symphysis, attaches to that little rim on each side of our pelvis, and they go on down and attach into this long bone here. Now they work, if you can see, it's kind of like 1, 2, 3, 4. They work in concert with the hip flexors, which are the psoas major and the iliacus. I'm going to try to zoom out a little bit so you can see the iliacus is the hip flexor that lives sort of in the pelvis. It attaches to that wing of the pelvis, and then it comes down here and attaches onto the femur. The psoas major, so we hear iliopsoas, might be familiar with that. That's the combination of these two muscles. This is the psoas major. This is the iliacus. Together, they make the iliopsoas. This one is a really interesting muscle, this psoas muscle, because it actually attaches to these different levels of the lumbar spine. As you can see here, you can see that's still lit up, right? So those attach into the lumbar spine. Easier to see from the front. Pass through the pelvis and come down and attach onto the femur. So if a person has, let's see, I'm going to probably stop this screen share now. Okay, so if we have a groin strain, then that's likely going to be it could be it's most likely going to involve those hip flexors too. I mean, they live in the same neighborhood. Okay. So, a couple of things that we want to do when we have an acute strain. One is to ice that area. You only want to do solely ice for maybe the first 12, maybe the first 24 hours. Okay. And that can be like 10 or 15 minutes on. And you could do that like every hour if you wanted to. You don't want to continue with just ice past the first day though. The next few days, if it's still really bothering you, you want to alternate ice and heat. And what I would do is I would start with the ice for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Then I would end with heat for maybe 10 minutes or so. A little bit time consuming, totally, but you can, if we want to heal this really naturally, ice and heat together, ice the first day, a combination of ice and heat for the next few days, then you can transfer right over to just heat, okay? So in the beginning, we want to get some ice on that to sort of stop some of that. We want to limit the swelling, okay? Swelling is not a bad thing. Inflammation after injury is a good thing. It actually is bringing healing chemicals and hormones into that area. So swelling in and of itself for an acute injury, that's not bad. We just don't want to have it linger around too long, and it doesn't need to be like, we don't want it to get too big. So again, swelling after an injury, good. It brings good chemicals, good hormones, healing things into that area. We just don't want it to linger around too long. And the way that we start to get rid of it after the first couple of days is we start to use a combination of, well, ibuprofen, of course. If you can take a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, doesn't bother your stomach, this is the perfect time to do that. If you went to a doctor and you had an acute muscle strain, they would let, as long as this is not contradicted for you, this is, just bear that in mind, as long as you're okay with ibuprofen or non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, most likely the doctor's going to prescribe 800 milligrams. They'll give you a prescription. You can mimic that with the over-the-counter. You can take up to 800 milligrams of ibuprofen with a really acute strain. Again, as long as that medicine has been safe for you in the past. And you might do that for that high dose for a day or two, maybe, depending on you and how you're feeling. Then what we want to start to do, even in the first day, okay, what I would do with a groin strain is I would have my feet really close together and I'd go a little side to side. I'd do some hip circles. Most likely this is going to feel kind of fine. Okay. Then you might not feel anything. Then we're going to get those feet a little bit further apart and we're going to do a little side to side. Ooh, maybe we start to feel a little bit of something there. So the point here is not to force anything. The point here is to just do a really gentle lengthening with this side to side motion. We're going to circle around a little bit. We're going to circle around a little bit. Okay. Then we can take it a little bit further. Maybe, depends on how this feels to you. The wider your feet are apart, the more length you're going to give that muscle. Okay. So the foot position already gives that muscle a little bit more length. Then we're driving the pelvis in these directions. That's giving an already lengthened muscle more length. Okay. You want to use your judgment on this. You're probably not going to get here on this first few days because that's likely not going to feel very good. But that's a good exercise as you're rehabilitating your groin strain. Start with your feet really close together. Oh, that's not feeling it. Oh, I don't really feel it there. Maybe now I can feel it. Okay. And again, we're not trying to stress it. We're not trying to strain it again. We're trying to give it a little belly rub. Okay. We're trying to just be real nice to it, but using this gentle motion at this moderate length. This is not an extreme position. Then we can start to get some needed movement, like an internal massage in that area, okay? The other foot positions that we can play with here, let's say it's this is my right side, let's say it's a right side groin strain. I might try to sneak my left foot a little bit more forward and see how that feels. Side to side there. That's going to change the length of those muscles. Circle around here. If that is too much on that at first, if this is the strained side, then we can make that the front side. I would do this anyway. I would try to do both legs. It's going to be easier with one leg back than the other. But see how I'm just going a little side to side. I'm making sure I'm circling around a little bit. If that's feeling like, okay, I can handle that, then I'm going to go a little further forward and a little more out with this leg. Get myself in this position here and play around with that. Then a little bit further out. Oh, that's going to be too much maybe. Okay, so then we back off a little bit. But the foot position is key to help nurture that acute injury back into a good place. As we're healing, now we'll talk about a little bit further down the line, maybe a week out of an acute strain. We're going to do that same kind of thing on the stairs. Okay, so I'm just going to pretend this is stairs. I've got my foot up here. I'm going to be going forward and back. I'm going to be going side to side. I want to maybe have that, and whoa, a little bit more of a wide position. Okay, so I'm actually using the counter, but I wouldn't recommend going up that high. So this might be on stairs, okay? But getting this moving around, this would be a really nice thing for anyone who does a lot of sitting to make a habit of doing. Really getting a lot of good separation. So if you're using staircase, then you want to get up onto probably the third stair, get wide over on that stair and really move that around. If you're someone who is really wanting to do a lot of climbing and hiking and moving about, but you are like an office person, then I would suggest, and this is not when you're injured, but this is when you're in like the preparation phase, you haven't been injured yet, or you're at the end of your rehab phase, is you could even use like a desk height and get that leg up there, okay? And really move all around. If you're, you know, a really active person who's going to be challenging those muscles a lot, but you can get that up really high. But again, it's the same principle. It's feet apart, 1 foot forward. Maybe we're using a step, maybe we're using a bench for that forward foot, maybe we're using stairs, maybe even a desk. But that's going to get that groin nice and widened out. The other good move for that groin is to get down on one knee. Now, again, this is going to be not the first day or two after you've got a strain. This is more mid rehab or take it over to the prevention side, okay? So if you're on one knee and then we walk that leg out and around, walk it out and around, walk it out and around, okay? So we're in this, we kind of take it around the clock, bring it back, take it around the clock, bring it back. Then we can just kind of be here in this nice wide position and start to do some arm drives. We reach across here, we come up overhead here. Reach across, come up overhead. Take that, the other arm now, reach across, come up overhead, reach across, come up overhead. Those two moves right there in that kneeling position are really going to give that inner thigh, the groin muscles of the inner thigh, what they need. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful, and we'll do this all over again next week.